next presenter really needs very little introduction. We're taking a trip across the border into Cambridgeshire to hear all about Vaughan Williams collecting in that county, which is currently my home county. So yeah, I'd like to introduce Mary Humphreys, who, with Anna Hatter, are well known for their fantastic music, both performing traditional song and also dance music as well. Yeah, but keeping those English traditions alive. So Mary has been working on collecting and transcribing Cambridgeshire songs and many, many tunes for a long time. And yeah, much of that is on her website, which I'm sure she'll tell you about. But also, we've got copies of this book for sale. And this contains, I did write down how many, it's about 11 Vaughan Williams songs, yeah, something like that. And also many other songs from around the county of Cambridgeshire. So without further ado, I introduce you to Mary Humphreys.
Thank you, Nikki. I regard this as quite an honour to be able to come along and tell you a little bit about what I've been doing over the many years that I lived in Cambridgeshire. I live in West Yorkshire now, so please, I'm sorry about that, but it feels like coming home, coming here. And can I say thank you also to Alex for all the organisational business they've been put to. It's been absolutely wonderful, so thank you, the two of you. Right, I'm going to tell you about Vaughan Williams and the stuff he collected in Cambridgeshire. It was only over 3 years, as you will find out. I'll tell you where I got the stuff from. I got all the details from, well, first of all, I went to the British Library, and I actually held the notebooks that he had actually written in. It was such an experience, British Library. You can actually ask to see them and hold them. Well, I would recommend that. All the notebooks have been digitised. They're in really good, clear, I think they're very clear, copies in the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library. So that's a place to go if you want to do sort of online research. I like to reconstruct the songs. There's no point in having a tune and no words. And most of the stuff in Cambridgeshire that Vaughan Williams collected didn't come with words. So I went to the Bodleian Broadside Library. That again, you can do that digitally. Wonderful place, a good resource, and we can talk about that later on in the question and answer later on this afternoon. And the last place I went to were to census records because I like to find out about the people that actually sang the songs. So we'll start with first slide. I told you only three years in which Vaughan Williams collected folk songs in Cambridgeshire. 1906, 1907, and there was only one day in 1908. Right, let's have a look. In 1906, the places he went to in 1906. Next slide. Oh, right. In 1906, Vaughan Williams and his wife Adeline spent their summer holiday in the Warren in Meldreth. It doesn't look like this anymore. They've cut down all the trees. There's a whole pile of stuff that's been built around. But it was a big old house that they rented for the best part of the month of July and August. And they spent a long time there. And the thing about Meldreth is it has very, very good rail connections with London, extremely fast rail connections. It's a village. I'll show you where it is. This is a map. This is an old map. Railway lines, as Sue was saying, railways are quite important for Vaughan Williams. That's where Meldreth is in Cambridge. There's, let's see, there's Orwell, which is the last place he ever collected songs from. There was, I can't read what that says now. But anyway, that's, sorry? Royston, yes, he went to Royston, and there was Bassingbourn, there you are, there's Bassingbourn, and Fenditon, that's Fenditon, that's Little Shelford, and then that's Cottenham, and the furthest north he went in Cambridgeshire was Wilbraham, was Wilburton, Cambridgeshire in those days did not include Huntingdonshire, it did not include the Soak of Peterborough. So Cambridgeshire was a much smaller county than it is today. It has expanded remarkably. Right. I'm getting too close to the thing, aren't I? Yes. Right. So Meldreth, as I say, is a village about 10 miles southwest of Cambridge. Fast rail connections, and he had to have a good connection with London because he was going to be doing, there was going to be a first performance of the Norfolk Rhapsody at the Proms in 1906. And so it was essential he could get there and back easily during his holidays. There's a photograph of Meldreth in the 1900s. It looked quite primitive, but it had quite a lot of pubs, and it even had a brewery. So that is what it looked like. Let's have a look at what he did it was August 1906, sorry, he wasn't there in July. His first collecting day was on the 20th of August. And he went to Little Shelford, which was quite close. It was probably a long walk or a short cycle ride. And he met up with Jim Austin, who was I believe he was a labourer. Let's have a look, see. Yes, he probably met him in a pub. There were two in the tiny village of Little Shelford. And he was a bricklayer, and he lived in High Street. And this is the first song that Vaughan Williams noted from anyone in Cambridgeshire. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that Vaughan Williams was very familiar with Cambridge because he actually did his degree at Trinity College in he graduated in 1904, and then he came back. He did his doctorate he got his doctorate in 1901. But he was very familiar with Cambridge, and he was known for taking long walks and cycle rides in the area, and maybe that's how he knew about the Warren. He may very well have cycled all the way out there. Anyway, Sheffield Apprentice was the first song that he wrote down, and I'll sing you. Thank you very much. Right. Just give me a note. Right. I'll give you a rough idea what it probably sounded like. I was brought up in Sheffield, though not of high degree. My parents doted on me, they had no child but me. I roamed about for pleasure, where'er my fancy led, till I was bound apprentice, then all my joys they fled. And then there's probably another sort of 8 or 10 verses, which depends on which version you sing. I just got the words from the Bodleian website. So that was the first song he got. He also wrote down a version of The Keeper, which some of you might have actually learnt in school, but not this particular version. And God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. And there were quite a few songs with that title that he collected in Cambridgeshire. And the Sheffield Apprentice, I think, in my view, is probably the best song he got. He next went off to Fen Ditton, because it was a gold mine of songs and singers. 4 residents gave him songs on 2 separate days in 1906, and on 1 day in the following year. So he knew where to go to get some decent songs. This particular song was collected from Llywelyn Mallion, who was not Welsh, despite the name. He was born just about 4 or 5 miles away from Fen Ditton. Vaughan Williams probably knew the popular broadside, The Irish Girl, and didn't bother to write down the words. It took me a long time to actually find a set of words that fitted, but I'm pretty certain this is the song that was sung to him by Llywelyn Mallion. Abroad as I was walking down by a riverside, and gazing all around me, the Irish girl I spied. Oh, red and rosy were her cheeks, and coal black was her hair. all around her waist was a sash like gold that my Irish girl did wear. Now, that's a brilliant tune, isn't it? A gorgeous tune, that. And so we actually we actually perform that ourselves. Can't resist it. Right, now you might wonder why Vaughan Williams went to a place like Fenditton, which is really only a very small place. He actually may have known a couple of quite famous residents who he might have met whilst he was at university. J. Lewis Bonhote was a very famous, ornithologist, I think is the word. He lived at Fenditton Hall. He was renting it for, I think he rented it for quite a few years, and he had this famous aviary at the side of it. And Vaughan Williams might very well have gone to visit this gentleman who he may well have known from Trinity College when he was there. The second person that he might have met or gone to visit was Professor William Ridgway, who was the Disney Professor of Archaeology. And he lived at Flendish House, which is a very nice, big house in the middle of the village. He was a more permanent resident than Mr. Bonhote. So he may have known Prof. Ridgway from the fact that he himself he did history at Trinity, and he may very well have had lectures with Mr. Ridgway. We just don't know. Fenditton is relatively easy to get to from Meldreth. He would have taken a train to Barnwell Junction, and then he could have walked along the bank of the Cam, because there was a perfectly good footpath along the side of the Cam. Right, the second visit to Fenditton on a different day, this was a week later, he met up with Mr. Pampling, who I found him in the census. I'll tell you about him in a minute. But it gives you a clue as to the difficulties of transcribing tunes from Vaughan Williams's notebook. This was written, I'm certain I remember it was written in pencil, and it's absolute, it was a nightmare to try and transcribe. And I think Mr. Pampling may very well have had a rather sort of shaky voice. I don't know. Didn't know the tune very well, or wasn't a very good singer. Who knows? Anyway, it's The Little Lowland Maid. I don't normally sing this, but we'll have a go at doing the first verse anyway. Right. It's of a pretty sailor lad who ploughed the stormy sea. He dressed himself in tarry clothes like one in poverty, his pockets being so well lined, though of the sailor trade, for to try the heart of Mary Ann, the little lowland maid. The difficulty actually getting a tune out of that scribble. Oh, it was fun. Mr. Pampling was 51 in 1906. He had been a coprolite digger. You can ask me about that in the question and answer later on. And now he was an agricultural labourer. And I included the song to show how he had to really work to get a tune out of that, and how I had to work to get a tune out of Vaughan Williams's wonderful writing. Yes. At this stage, he wasn't using a phonograph, but it would have been so much more help, wouldn't it? He used the phonograph in the following year. The next song is a version of The Plains of Waterloo. Again, there's lots of different versions of the words, but I had to really work hard to find this set of words that will work with the tune that Vaughan Williams got from Harry Malyon, who was the brother of Llywelyn Malyon. There were 3 Malyon brothers, all living in Fenditton at the time. Have I got any more? Yeah, I'll tell you about that later. Anyway, let's just sing this song. It's Plains of Waterloo. Come, all you loyal lovers, I pray you lend an ear, and listen unto these few lines I have written here. While these few lines that I do write, the tears my cheeks bedew, lamenting for my darling boy that was slain at Waterloo. So that was the Plains of Waterloo from Harry Malyon. I'm going to show you a census return now, which will, you'll find that Thomas Pamplin, who sang The Little Lowland Maid, is at number 131 Green End, and Llywelyn Malyon and all his family are living at 136 Green End. And amazingly, we have a public house right next to where Llywelyn Malyon was living. It's the Harvest Home. Let's have a look at the next slide. That is the Harvest Home in Fen Ditton. I'm afraid it is no longer a pub. We have a lot of dead pubs in Cambridge, and this could well be, the lecture could be called The Dead Pubs of Cambridge, but here's one anyway. This is the Harvest Home, and you can still see, can you see the bracket on the wall there, which is where the pub sign was? It's not been in existence since about the 1950s, but people I spoke to when I lived in Cambridgeshire, they'd remember it as a beer house. It was only an ale house. I don't think it sold anything smarter than beer. But at the side there, you can see they've got the Harvest Home. There's a little sort of sign there, number 37. And if we look carefully at the side of the pub, that's where the bracket was over there. The side of the pub, if you look at the side of the pub and you look along their garden wall, that's a bricked up door, that's a bricked up window, and you can see where the roof was. That's where Llywelyn Malyon lived with his family in 1906. So it was rather nice to find his home, even though you don't find much of it. Thomas Pamplin lived a few doors away, just on Fire Street, just a 5-minute walk away. So they were all very close together, the Malyons and Mr. Pamplin. Right, we'll go to the next one now. Will Burton was the last place he went to in the 1900s. He went in 1906, and he went back again in 1907. He met up with Mr. Gottard, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, who was 62, and he was a widower who lived on Church Lane. He took down 2 songs from Mr. Gottard, and the following week he returned and got 4 more, so he knew he was onto a good thing there. Will Burton was the furthest that Vaughan Williams actually ventured in Cambridge on his song collecting trips, and it's deep in the fens. In 1906, it actually had a railway station. I don't believe it does anymore. So why did he visit this particular village? Do you think he was just trying to find, or go as far as he possibly could, just for a bit of fun on that day? Were there old college friends living there? There was the local vicar was called St. John Wayne, and he was a Cambridge contemporary of his, though not from Trinity. And the Pell family lived at the manor and were local gentry. He may have had some sort of family connection or friendship connection with them. I don't know. If anybody knows, please let me know why he might have gone to Will Burton. Anyway, let's have a look, see what he found in Will Burton. We found, on the August the 25th, he found Mr. Gottard, probably in a pub. I'm pretty certain he would have been in a pub. And he found a song called The Little Lousy Tailor. The Lousy Tailor. He listened to the words and decided, like sort of some of the songs that he took, like The Cobbler, for instance, a similar sort of song. It's a song about a sort of a tailor fancying a boatman's wife and having a night of fun and being found out by the husband of the wife. Anyway, so the Lousy Tailor, he only took down the chorus line, so tooraloo, tooralay, and tooraloo, fol-de-roll, fol-de-riddle, old-de-ray. And he actually then put a set of words to it that were perfectly innocuous, and you could sing them to anybody. But I'm going to sing you the first verse of a version that was collected. There was another collection done in Dorset by Hammond. I think it was Hammond. Let's just check. Yes, in Dorset. He found he found an unsuitable set of words, which is great. If you want to know the number, it's Roud number 570. That's another place I forgot to mention, that the Roud numbers are so useful, absolutely fabulous. If you use a Roud number, you can probably get the right sort of words. Anyway, let's have a go at this one. It is of a jolly boatman in little Port Town did dwell. He had a handsome wife and a tailor loved her well. Tooraloo, tooralay. And when that the boatman was out of the way, that little lousy tailor along with her he'd play. Tooraloo, fol-de-roll, fol-de-riddle, all-de-ray. It's a great song. I sing this quite a bit when if I ever do gigs. Oh, probably won't do any more. Anyway, that's how it goes. And no doubt Vaughan Williams was rather pleased to get a song like that. It's because he put a set of words, as I said, a set of innocuous words, but he could actually publish that and make use of it. Let's see, was there anything more about Mr. Gothard? No. Let's go on to the following year, 1907. In the summer of 1907, they returned to their holiday home in Mildreth. They went to the same place again. They obviously liked it. He visited singers in 4 villages he hadn't visited before, which were quite close to Mildreth. Foulmere, Bassingbourne, Royston, which is really a town, and Cottenham. Royston is not actually in Cambridgeshire. It's in Hertfordshire, so my better half tells me. But it is very close, and it actually took paupers from Cambridgeshire villages because the union, the Royston Union Workhouse, was, I think, the parish paid into Royston Union to take some of their paupers. So we find that 1 or 2 actually sort of ended up there. Right, in Foulmere, he went on the 12th and 20th of July and the 7th of August. He found some really good... He found Hoppy Flack, who everybody will have known from... he was well known in the area. Meldreth, on the 22nd of July, he recorded at home this chap called Ginger Clayton. Can I find Ginger Clayton? Of course I can't, because a lot of Cambridgeshire people had sort of nicknames for reasons best known to themselves. So I've never found a Mr. Clayton anywhere in the census returns. Maybe he managed to avoid the census, who knows. Bassingbourne he went to. There's a gentleman called John Harmon. And then, as I say, Royston Union, he found a couple of Cambridgeshire paupers, one of whom was called Mr. Wiltshire, and then there was an unnamed person. He went to Cottenham on the 3rd of August and met up with Charlotte Dan, who had been collected before. Again, I'll tell you about her. And then Fenditton again. He thought, well, I found some good songs there. Let's go back and see if I can find some more. So there we are, Mr. Pamplin and Henry Malyon, brother of Llywelyn Malyon. Right, let's have a look at the next page. Yes, right. He went to Foulmere. Originally it was called Foulmire, or sometimes it was even written with a U in the middle instead of a W. Foulmire, and no wonder they changed the name. You wouldn't want to live in a place called Disgusting Mud, would you? Anyway, he found Hoppy Flack on the 12th of July, 1907. He knew about Hoppy Flack originally because his May song had been published in the Folk Song Journal. It had been sent to Lucy Broadwood in 1902, and it was sent by the Reverend Alexander Campbell York, who was the rector of Foulmere. So I'll sing you this particular... Yes, I'll sing this. Oh, I've been a-rambling all the night and the first part of the day, and now I am returning home. I've brought you a branch of May. And he found quite a lot of the words had actually been written down, but he also got some more words from him. Hoppy Flack was the last of a dying breed. Maying involved processing around the village, carrying a branch of hawthorn in bloom, and he sang for drinks and pennies. And it was a cadging custom, of which there were many in Cambridgeshire farming villages. Those of you who know a lot about Cambridgeshire's folk song will know all about Cambridge and their cadging customs. Molly was another one, wasn't it? Molly dancing. Yes. Hoppy Flack was called Charles Flack, and he was born in Triplow, about 2 miles from Foulmere, to a labouring family. Let's see if we can find him here. Where are we? Charles Flack. Yeah, that's. Sorry, no, that's not him. No, so why have we got that one there? That's because he was a lodger. Yes, he was a lodger in the Black Horse, which was it was a pub in Foulmere, the Black Horse. I think I've got a picture of it somewhere. There we are. That's what it was like in the 1930s, the Black Horse. And that's what it's like today. Another dead pub. There you are, you see, pub number 2. There again, it's still got the bracket on the front. I think it's now an architect's office or something very similar. It's next to the church. If those of you who do know Foulmere, it's right next to the church. It's worth having a look at it. He was born in Triplow, about 2 miles from Foulmere, to a labouring family. He was a lodger in the Black Horse in 1891, and he's recorded as dead in 1909, aged about 46, in Royston. And if you remember, I mentioned Royston Union. He probably was in Royston Union when he died in 1909. So there we are, we've got the photographs. Right. Vaughan Williams collected more stuff from him, more songs from him. This is Lord Ellenwater, which is a child ballad. It's child number 208. And Bronson published it with the credit Happy Flack. That's because Vaughan Williams' writing was so awful. He thought it was Happy Flack, not Hoppy Flack. So I'll sing you the... Have we got the... yeah. The king, he wrote a letter, sealed it up with gold, and sent it to Lord Ellenwater to read it if he could. And he got all the words there, which was very good of him, because it's not very often that you got all the words with Vaughan Williams. Right, the next slide, please, yes. In 1910, Augustus Bartholomew, who was a Cambridge librarian, sent a letter to Vaughan Williams giving an update on Hoppy Flack. And he says he was thanking him for doing a lecture on folk song. But he says, I'm just returned from your very charming lecture on folk music in East Anglia. I think you'll care to hear that old Hoppy died not long since. I've known him all my life, and his was certainly the most picturesque figure in the not otherwise particularly interesting village of Foulmere. My home was there, on the green, for 10 years, and before that I paid long yearly visits to my uncle and aunt, who live in the manor house. In the last year or two, I've not been there very much. Hoppy often came to us at Christmas Eve and sang The Mistletoe Bough, or as much of it as alcoholic stimulation would permit him to produce. It was a particular feature of the evening. Right, so we hear about him having died in sort of 1910? Was it 1910? So 1909. Was it 1909? 1910. Yeah. Right. The next one is he collected from Ginger Clayton, but this is actual proof of Vaughan Williams' use of the phonograph in 1907, because it comes from this particular song, collected in Meldreth, possibly even in the his holiday home. We don't know who Ginger Clayton was, but he may have been a carter, a drayman, or a casual visitor. And a detailed trawl through the census has proved unsuccessful. Right, I'll sing you this. The trees, they grow so high. Sorry. The trees, they grow so high. and the leaves they grow so green. The day is past and gone, my love, that you and I have seen. It's a long winter's night, my love, that I must bide alone. For my bonny boy is young, but a growing. You can see he's written, beneath it, he's written all these he's written as many words as he could. But if we look in Lucy Broadwood's letters, or in the archives, in the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library, they've got all Lucy Broadwood's letters catalogued there. And I found in there a phonograph transcription. Notice it says RVW at the bottom there. And the scribble at the bottom says, this version has been corrected from a phonograph record. So, as we see, he wrote the whole thing out, and then this is a proper transcription which he was then able to correct from the original that he'd collected from Ginger Clayton. So Vaughan Williams is no stranger to the phonograph. Ella Leather sent many of her cylinders to Vaughan Williams for transcription. She was a collector in Herefordshire. And Vaughan Williams made recordings in Sussex in early 1907. He even left his phonograph and recordings with Lucy Broadwood, who delighted her guests and housemates by playing them. So there you are. He knew what to do with a phonograph, and he was not averse to actually using it when he could. It would have been easy for him, because if he was actually living at this holiday home in Meldreth at the Warren, it would have been easy for him to set the thing up and then get somebody in to come and sing, and then he'd be able to transcribe it. Right, the next village he went to, Bassingbourne was the next village to Falmere, and John Valentine Harmon was a 51-year-old agricultural labourer living in the tan yard. This is a version called The Lakes of Cold Fen. 'Twas early one morning, Willie Leonard arose. Straight to his comrade's bedchamber he goes. Arise, my dear comrade, and let no one know. 'Tis a fine sunny morning, and a-bathing we'll go. Right, John Valentine Harmon, a photograph of him in 1910. And that's the census return. He's in that big yellow box there. And the next picture, that's the tan yard as it is today. It probably didn't look anything like that or smell anything like that in 1906. So, 1907. We'll miss this one out. Let's go to the next one. Let's go back to that one, because Vaughan Williams used this tune in the second movement of his English folk song suite for the military band in 1923. Where he chanced to meet me. So that's what he got in Royston Union from a Mr. Wiltshire who'd been a shoemaker and who is now on his uppers. Right, sorry about that. Couldn't help that one. Cottenham, he went to Cottenham on the 3rd of August, and he collected 2 unrecognised songs plus Cuckoo and the Nightingale. Cuckoo and the Nightingale had already been collected by Ella Bull, who lived in Cottenham, and sent the details to Lucy Broadwood, who probably put Vaughan Williams on to going to Cottenham. And the second tune is, in fact, if you look at it, it's da 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 da. And by there came our own brother dear. What ails you, Lucy One? It's Lucy One, we know it is. And Lucy One was actually collected by Ella Bull. Next page, yeah. We got that as typewritten script it was typewritten by Percy Merrick, who was involved with Ella Bull. He actually stayed with the Bull family this is Charlotte Dan, photographs of Charlotte Dan in around about the time when she was singing, and then that's when she'd retired, and she was, it was a photograph from their family album. Ella Bull, blind from birth, and that's a photograph of her in 1900. She collected in about, oh, look, we're getting to 1900, nearly time. Right, the last collecting that Vaughan Williams did was from Orwell. He probably went there because he was doing research for the Greek play, the triennial Greek play. He'd been commissioned to do the music for the Wasps. That's what it looked like in about 1900. He was commissioned to do the Greek play. He probably went to do some research because the vicar at Orwell was the son of a very famous Greek scholar. He collected the The Lady Looked Out from Billy Wags, and he even says the Red Lion. So let's have a look at the picture of the Red Lion. That was the Red Lion. It is there no longer, another dead pub. But there's still the old thatched wall there. And he collected the Lady Looked Out and the Red Running Roo. Oh, come all you fair pretty maids and young men in your prime. I'd have you to keep your garden clean. Let no man steal your time. That's how it goes, and that's a very good song for teaching kids in school because it's a fairly straightforward song, and you can miss out all the naughty bits. So that is I'm ever so sorry, I overran. I got rather enthusiastic in places. Anyway, so we'll leave you with that. If you've got any further questions, you can ask them this afternoon, okay?